So let yourself, if you're in your chair, just make sure your feet are hip distance apart and parallel. And if you're on the floor, feel free to sit up on blankets if that feels better for your hips. And whether you want to stretch your legs out long or be cross-legged, just be comfortable for your own hips. And then just close your eyes. Let yourself enjoy lengthening up through the top of your head. Let yourself gently, as your eyes gently close, imagine that you're looking down towards the floor here at first. And then just breathe. Let your focus come to your breath coming in and out through your nose. And imagine your eyes relaxing now. So you sort of let your focus go where you want, but you let yourself release all around your eyes, all around your mouth, and watch your breath coming in and going out. And if you can direct your breath a little bit so you feel your inhale coming into your belly, feeling your belly expand a little bit as you breathe in. In one direction. Just keep circling in one direction with your hands. And then stop and let yourself reverse and go the other direction, letting those fists just easily circle the other way. And then let yourself release your arms all the way on down beside you. Take a nice inhale. And on the exhale, we're going to twist to our right. So let yourself come on around. You know your left hand can come onto your right knee if that's comfortable, or it can be more at the midline. But just feel the spine coming into that gentle, easy twist. One more inhale. And on the exhale, we'll come on back around through center and all the way into the other direction. So it's like you're waking your spine up really in a gentle way. One more inhale. And on your exhale, come on back around into center again. And let's inhale the arms back up into a wide V here now. So turn your palms to face each other and actually spread your fingers really wide. And let your pinkies come closer towards each other, which drops your shoulders away from your ears. Good. And now let's lower our left arm down. We're going to come into side stretch. So reach up through the right fingertips. Your hand can be on the floor there to give you support if you're on the ground. And just breathe into the right side of the body here. So let your breath expand the right ribs. And then we'll come on back up. We're going to lower that arm on down and rise the left arm up. And again, coming over into that side stretch, reach up through your fingertips. Let your hand give you a little support there if you're on the floor. And breathe into the left ribs. Good, and then we'll come on back up. We're going to lower our arms on down beside us. Let's make one big arm circle. Reach your arms forward and up. Now this all depends on you how far back behind yourself you go with your arms to come down. And then we'll reach back first and reach all the way up and over the top, and then let our arms come on down in front of us. Good. Shake out a little bit. If you're on the floor cross-legged, switch the cross of your legs, right? So bring the other leg in front so that you can even your hips out a little bit there. And then from here, let's just move a little bit with our breath. So let your exhales just bring you forward with a long back. And when you inhale, come back upright again. So your exhales just carry you forward easily. And your inhales bring you back up. So don't go very far. If it doesn't feel good in your back, you know, you can move an inch or two, or you may decide, wow, it feels really good to just come farther forward. It feels like a relief. So paying attention to how your own back feels and your hips, but letting the breath move the body. So really feeling like that exhale is what brings you forward, and your inhale is what brings you back up. Take your time, let it feel that rocking motion is so quieting, calming. And then the next time that you end up being forward, see if you can stay there. So if you're on the floor, you might want to put your hands on the floor to give you a little support. You may decide, I want to walk my hands out further and come farther forward. And in your chair, you may want to put your elbows above your knees, or you might want to go ahead and bring your hands down lower. It really, again, depends on how your back feels. So don't do anything that doesn't feel comfortable. Let yourself just release and breathe. If you're able to let your head hang, do. So you don't feel like you're tensing up your neck, right? And just accept those full, easy breaths in and out. One more full deep breath. And when you get ready to rise back up, take your time. Let yourself come on back up. Let's bring our arms again out beside us, but this time bring your right arm on top of your left and give yourself a hug. Let your elbows really melt downward. And then let your head tilt to one side. Doesn't matter which one. Just to let yourself release through the side of your neck a little bit there. And then come up and over the top and let yourself go easily to the other side. And if you feel like a place that feels tight, you know, you can always kind of stay a little bit. You can go back and forth if that feels better to you, to move a little bit. Letting yourself find those places in your neck where you might feel a little more, I don't want to say discomfort, but you know what I mean, tightness. Unfold your arms for a second here. We're going to go the other arm on top, bring in the left arm on top. And again, let your elbows melt down, and where you hold is totally up to you. You can go more towards your armpits or over your shoulders. And then go ahead and let your head move around. So you can tilt it. You may decide you want to roll through, chin towards your chest, or you might feel better just to come into sideways tilting. So just pay attention. Let your neck release. Let it feel really easy in your shoulders here and that space between the shoulder blades on your back. And we're going to finish off to come back up with our heads and release our arms on down. Just kind of shake your hands out a little bit. Good. And now just stretch your legs out for a second just to feel the backs of the legs. Flex your feet a few times and point them and kind of wake up here through your feet. And if you can circle your feet around to get into your ankles a little bit, do too. And if you'd rather do opposite circles, you can. You can circle them the same direction. Just let it feel good to wake up here through the feet, the legs. And we're going to come on around towards our hands and knees now. And you know, if you don't want to be on your knees, you do not need to be. You can be on a blanket on the floor with your knees having a little cushion, or you can have your hands up in the seat of the chair so that you're not, onto the floor on your knees. Wrists, be careful. If you need to come onto fists, do. If it really bothers you to be flat on your hands, then go ahead and come to your fists if you need. And then just start to flow through your cat-cow. So let yourself, when you exhale, draw your navel towards your spine, drop your tailbone down, be kind of like an angry cat, right? And then when you inhale and you send your tailbone back and up, you come into cow pose, letting the ribs melt down a little bit. So be really mindful of just letting yourself flow through your back easily. And, you know, we all know some days are different than others. You know, you might feel a little bit of tightness in your back, or it might feel like really easy. You might feel like, wow, my spine feels great today. So just enjoy letting yourself just move through your spine, that kind of snake-like quality, really. Good, and then finish off and come on back to neutral spine. So you're right there now with your back coming into its natural curves. And now just turn your head to look right and let your right arm come up so that it's coming straight out from your shoulder with the palm facing down. So you're putting a little more weight into your left hand, obviously. You can let the arm go up higher if you want, hand up towards the ceiling if you want to. And then go ahead and bring the hand back down, and we'll switch. So your left arm comes up. Again, you can stay parallel to the floor. You're looking over there towards your hand. You can go up higher if it feels good. Your shoulders might or might not be good with that. And then we'll come on back down. Let's come one more time into cat pose. Draw the navel towards the spine. Really let your head hang down. And then come on back into more neutral spine. And we're going to bring our left foot forward and our right foot back to come into lunge. So coming into this first lunge, take your time. And you know, if your wrists are starting to bother you, you can change how you have your hands. You know, you can go to fingertips. You can hold, you know, fists onto whatever surface you have your hands on. You can hold the edge of the seat of the chair if that helps. So be mindful. Let yourself open up through the back of that right leg there. Good. And then we're going to switch our legs. So it doesn't matter how you do that. Bringing the right foot forward and coming into your lunge here. Letting yourself be mindful of that front knee. Making sure it's not bent any farther forward than your ankle, so you're not putting that undue stress on your knee there. Remember, you want to be like you're on railroad tracks, not like you're on a tightrope. We're going to switch our legs again. So again, as you bring that left foot forward, if it feels good to put your left hand up on your thigh, you can, or your forearm if you're down lower, right? So if that feels good, otherwise don't do it. Keep your hands down if you need. And then we're going to switch our legs one more time. So again, it's like you're on narrow railroad tracks with your feet. And if you feel good to bring that hand up, that right hand up or forearm up to your thigh, you can. Let yourself just enjoy opening up through the back of that left leg there. Good. And from here, we're going to step forward and come into standing forward bend. So your feet are parallel, hips distance apart, which for most of us is like a fist or a fist and a half between our distance between our feet. And now what you really want to be mindful of course, is your back. And if you know you need to keep a long back, you can put your elbows above your knees, bend your knees quite a bit, and support your back there. You're more than welcome to use your chair, of course, with your hands on the chair or forearms on the chair. Or you can go all the way to let your arms hang if that feels okay to you. So just really pay attention, again, to how your back feels. Letting the backs of the legs just come into finding a little bit more space, just from your torso being forward. So let your breath come in and go out and watch it. See if you can just be aware of watching your breath all the way through to the end of your inhales and all the way through to the end of your exhales. Let your face be soft and relaxed. And then we'll bring our hands on up to our hips. We're going to rise on up to standing and inhale our arms all the way out and up overhead. And as we exhale our hands down to be in front of our heart, come into mountain pose. If you need to look at your feet, do adjust yourself so you have your feet fairly even. They're parallel, toes are facing forward. And you can feel very balanced now between your right and your left side. So, you know, if it helps to shift, you can shift from right to left just to kind of get this feeling of being able to come back into being centered between your feet. And you can do the same thing front to back too if you like. If you feel like you're more towards the balls of your feet, just make sure you're kind of feeling equal between being towards your heels and towards the balls of your feet. And whether your eyes are opened or closed, just imagine you're looking out towards the horizon. So you have that sense of the top of the head reaching up towards the ceiling. You're grounded equally through your feet. So you are strongly based in your mountain pose, but very light in your upper body. And then we'll go ahead and release our arms on down beside us. We're going to inhale both arms all the way out and up overhead. And on the exhale, bend your knees a little bit as you come on forward into that standing forward bend. Good. Let your next inhale help you find a long, flat back. Wherever you want your hands to go, your chair, your legs, your blocks, doesn't matter. We're going to step our right foot back and come into lunge. Heading into that first sun salutation. And inhale here. And exhale into downward facing dog pose. So whether your hands are on chair or blocks or the floor, think about really elongating through your spine. So if your hands are on the floor, you'll be more like an upside down V, right? If your hands are on the floor, your feet can be back, your heels can be hovering, elbows hug in towards each other no matter where your hands are. Take your time. If you need to walk, let yourself bend a knee at a time if that feels good. Good, and let's come on back to full dog, and on the next inhale, come out towards a plank pose like you're going to do a push-up. And you're more than welcome to do a push-up if you choose to. And you're also welcome to come to your forearms if you would rather, so that you get out of your hands. You can put your knees down and do a half plank if you'd rather, right? And then we're going to make our way back again into downward facing dog pose. So remember, be mindful of how you feel in your shoulders in your dog. So changing where your hands are can help that. Having them lower or higher. And we'll bring our right foot forward to find lunge from here. So however you need to get into that lunge, your knees can go down, one knee can go down, whatever works. And then we'll come on back into our standing forward bend again. So again, just be really mindful of your back. Take your time. If you need support, use it. I know some of you really love to hold your elbows and feel the full weight of your torso because your backs feel fine to do that. But it's not for everybody. So remember, it's fine to bend your knees. Think about your sitting bones being over your heels. Let your breaths come in and go out. See if you can let your inhales and exhales be fairly even in length. So you can count when you breathe in and think about reaching that same count when you breathe out. Good. One more breath. And then we'll bring our hands to our hips. We're going to press into our feet and come on up to standing, inhaling our arms out and up overhead. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. And let's unfold our arms and inhale them again, all the way out and up overhead. And on the exhale, bend our knees and come back into that standing forward bend. Let your next inhale help you find that flat back, like your back has become like a tabletop, very flat. And we'll step our left foot back from here to come into lunge. So if you can, draw your shoulders way down away from your ears. Feel like you're trying to make your mat longer with your feet a little bit, so you press your feet gently away from each other. And we're going to come on into downward facing dog pose from here. So again, whether your hands are on blocks or the floor or the chair, focus on that length of your spine. Imagine you're reaching back through your tailbone as far as you can, and think of the back of your head being in line with your spine. So you're not lifting your chin up. You're also not dropping the chin in towards your chest, right? Next inhale, we'll come out towards that plank. And again, you are more than welcome to stay in plank. Go to forearms. Put your knees down, bend your elbows and do little push-ups if you want to. Good, and then we'll come on back again into downward facing dog pose. And from here, this time the left foot comes forward to come into lunge. So again, however you need to get there. Press those feet gently away from each other. Feel that sense of your whole body in your lunge, right? Including your spine, the length of your spine. Good. And then we'll step forward and come back into our standing forward bend. Feet hips distance apart and parallel. And again, be mindful. Let yourself be easy for your own back. Accept your breaths. Watch the movement through the ribs as you inhale, how the ribs kind of separate. And it's almost like if you had a rubber band around your rib cage, it would get bigger all around when you inhale. One more breath. And then we'll bring our hands to our hips and rise on up. Inhaling our arms out and up overhead. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. And let's sit back into a little chair pose. Now, don't go far. Let your hips shift back a little bit, right? Your torso comes a little forward, just like you would do if you were about to sit in a chair. But now press down into your feet. Imagine you're pushing the floor away from you with your feet. And you're really going to feel your quads engaging, right? So you're really strong here into the thighs. And then if you want to go a little deeper, you can. You don't need to. And if you feel funny in your knees, just don't go any deeper. Just stay up pretty high and let yourself just enjoy feeling your quads engaging there. Strengthening. We're going to rise straight on back up. We're going to inhale the hands all the way up through the midline. And on the exhale, open the arms like wings as you come on forward to standing forward bend. On your next inhale, find that long back. And this time we're going to walk into down dog. So your hands go to the surface you like to use, and then you walk your way back into down dog. So take your time, walk a little bit in your dog. See if you can bend one knee at a time, or maybe you feel better to bend both knees at the same time. And that's fine too. Good. And now on our next inhale, we'll come out again towards that plank. You can stay in plank. You can go into whatever you like to do here, or you can come into a back bend of choice, right? If you like to come through for up dog, you can let your hips come down and your chest come through. Or if you prefer, you can come down and go into a Sphinx or a Cobra on the floor. And then we'll make our way back into downward facing dog pose. So take your time. If you need to bend your knees, do it. Let your head turn a little bit side to side too, so you find your neck releasing a bit. And then we're going to come back so we can come back to that plank again. And again, it is optional to do a back bend. You can do push-ups if you'd rather. You can stay in your plank or go to forearm plank or go into that half plank. And then we'll make our way back again into downward facing dog pose. Good. And this time, let's bring our left foot forward to find lunge. And then we'll come on back into standing forward bend again. Feet hips distance apart and parallel. Nice easy breaths. So really accept those full deep breaths again, in and out. Let your face soften. So if you're feeling like tense in your jaw, just think about if you could almost like relax your teeth. Just feeling the sense of letting go through your jaw. One more breath. And then we'll bring our hands up to our hips. We're going to bend our knees and rise on up and inhale our arms all the way out and up. And as we exhale, let the top of your head get higher up towards the ceiling. And feel your tailbone as you come into mountain pose, reaching down towards between your heels. Remember, you don't want to tuck your tailbone up under you. You want to let yourself feel the tailbone reaching towards between the heels, and that way your pelvis is aligned. And then it becomes very easy to let your body stack up, right? Hips over ankles, shoulders over hips. Accepting your breaths. in and out. Good. And then go ahead and let your arms come on down beside you. Shake out a little bit. Move around if you'd like, right? So let's come into some warriors. So you can keep your chair turned this way if you're using a chair. And those of you who don't have one, have your blocks handy, okay? So we'll step towards the front of our mats and step our right foot back into warrior one first today. So bringing our shoulders square to the front side of our edge of our mat. And then just let yourself bend that left knee enough to where you can still see your toes down there, right? You don't want to let your knee come out beyond your toes. You want to really, and it can be less far. It can be right over your ankle if that's better. And then go ahead and bring your gaze forward. Let yourself from here, bring your arms forward of your shoulders. Bring your hands together and clasp them, okay? And then turn the palms away from your chest. Press out into the heels of your hands. Now when you do that, try not to round into the upper back, right? Still, it's like your chest is leading a little bit. Now float the arms up higher and higher. That may not be high for you. You may need to stay right here. You may need to stay lower. You may be able to bring your arms up so that their upper arms are by your ears. Be where you can, but feel how your belly just automatically lifts up. And then from there, separate your hands, turn your palms to face each other, let the pinkies turn towards each other. You can look up if that feels good. You can let yourself feel that little bit of extra lift at the base of your shoulder blades. Coming into that warrior one, inhaling up the front of your body and exhaling down the back of your body. Good, one more breath. Now as you look back forward again, let your arms circle around behind you if you can. And then we're going to bring ourselves forward into a lunge. So you can put your hands on your chair. You're going to release that right heel directly behind your foot. You can use your blocks if you'd rather. We're going to add a little twist. So letting your right hand stay down, bring your left hand up to your left hip. Roll that left shoulder up. Let yourself come into that twist. Now you can keep your hand right there, or you can stretch your arm up if you want to, right? That's up to you. But do be aware of where your head is. So if you have the tendency to drop your head, see if you can bring your head more into line with your spine. And then we'll go ahead and look down, and we're going to straighten our front leg out and come into pyramid, lowering the right heel down onto the floor now, and turning that heel inward just a little bit to open up the backs of both our legs. So think of your flat back again. Think of that flat back that we did during our warm-ups, during our sun salutations. So imagine that you're coming into that flat back, and let yourself just enjoy feeling your thighs lifting up towards your hips. So now you're into the backs of the legs, but you're not overdoing it because you're using your muscles to lift upward, creating space in your own knees. One more breath. And then we're going to step forward. So bend that left knee so you can get your right foot right underneath you. Get your feet hips distance apart and parallel. And we're going to bend our knees and rise on up and inhale our arms all the way out and up overhead. And on our exhale, let our hands come right down to be in front of our hearts, coming into mountain pose. So again, you know, instead of feeling like when you come into mountain that you're tensing your way into mountain, just feel the feet in the floor. You can bend your knees a little bit and push the floor away from you, but let the body kind of align itself. It's almost like it grows its way into mountain pose. Because your body really wants to be aligned. It's what it's made to be, actually. So let yourself then unfold your arms on down beside you. Shake out a little bit, and we're going to come to the other side. So again, you step towards the front of your mat, and you step your left foot back. Now, if it feels better to you to widen your feet towards the outside edges of your mat, do. This back heel is still turned out and in just a little bit, so you have a slight turnout in that back leg, right? And then you can feel equal. When you bend this front knee, and you make sure, again, you can see your toes, and you bring your gaze forward. Even though this knee is bent and this back leg is straight, try to think of feeling very balanced, right to left. And bring the arms on forward face, the palms into each other. Clasp your hands together again, And then turn your palms out away from your chest. And now from here, again, try not to round. Think of your chest being forward. Floating the arms slowly up, only as far as your shoulders let you go. There's no right or wrong. Feel the lift of the belly. Even if your arms just barely come up higher, you're going to feel your belly working, right? So Warrior One, it is a really big core pose. Belly, low back, and hips. Let your hands come apart. Turn your palms to face each other. Wide V. Draw your pinkies in towards each other a little more. And then again, you can look up if you want. So your belly is lifting. That's what's keeping you from putting too much pressure into your low back. It's an amazing pose. It opens the front of your left hip too. One more breath. And then bring your gaze forward. Circle your arms behind you again, as far as you can. And we're going to bring our hands down to find lunge. So again, whatever height you want to be. And now you want to let that left heel reach directly behind your foot. Finding your lunge. And we're going to add that twist. Right hand on up to your right hip. Rolling your shoulder up. Now you're trying to keep fairly level here at your sacrum, where your hand is. So you're trying not to drop into that left side. And then again, you can reach your right arm up if you want to. Remember to think about your head too. So don't drop your head down, but think of your head being part of your spine. Good. We're going to bring our hand on back down. Remember, we're going to come into pyramid, so we're going to straighten that front leg out and put the left heel down on the floor so that now both legs are straight and both feet are on the floor. Thighs are lifting up towards your hips, so you're very much engaged in your legs at the same time you're stretching your hamstrings. So find that flat, long back. Good. One more breath here. And then we're going to step forward and get our feet right underneath us again. Feet hip distance apart and parallel. We'll bend our knees and rise on up. We're going to inhale our arms all the way out and up overhead. And as we exhale, come into our mountain pose, feet on the floor, floating up through the top of your head. Let yourself imagine for a couple of breaths that you're breathing in and out through every pore of your skin. So you can imagine feeling the most balanced ever if you could breathe in and out through your skin, right? And then we'll let our arms release on down beside us. Good. Shake out a little bit. And we're going to come into Warrior Two this time. So again, you step towards the front of your mat. This time, right foot steps back, and this time, the right foot opens to where it's about parallel to the back edge of your mat. Your left foot is still parallel to the long edge. And then bend that left knee, and here you are. It doesn't matter whether your feet are 2 feet apart, 3 feet, 4 feet. It's that bend of that front knee. We're going to float our arms up higher than our shoulders. Let your palms still face down. Let your shoulders release down. And then when the arms come lower and you start to look out over the top of that left hand, really feel that sense of reaching back through the right fingertips and forward through the left. So again, you're very balanced in your Warrior Two, very strong pose. Feel the feet in the floor. Feel that sense of looking out beyond the wall almost as you look out over the top of that hand. And now bring your right hand down onto your right hip. We're going to straighten the left leg out. And see about bringing your left hand down. Now you might want to just put it on your thigh for triangle. You might want to use the seat of the chair. If you can get down to the seat of the chair or a block or down your leg further, do. But you're really extending your torso out over that front leg. So it's not about how low you go, right? If you can draw your right shoulder up towards the ceiling, do. And some of you might want to add the right arm straight up from your shoulder. Don't do that if it bothers you. Feel that sense of thighs lifting up towards the hips, just like we did in pyramid pose. We're going to bend the left knee and come on back into Warrior Two again. Pressing the feet away from each other gets you back into that core strength. And then we'll bring our hands on down. We're going to turn our feet more parallel, so you're facing that long edge of your mat. And you may want to grab your blocks for a wide-legged forward bend here. So once you get your hands where you want them, like to the blocks or the floor, go ahead and take your time, bend a knee at a time if that feels good. Let yourself just adjust. If it bothers your knees to do that, don't do it. And then let yourself now come into feeling as equal as you can between your feet. And press your feet away from each other like you're trying to lengthen your mat. Imagine your inner thighs melting their way behind you. And then you can set up to stay in this pose. Get out of your hands if you want to by stacking your blocks up and letting your forearms come onto the blocks. And they can be even higher than this. You can stack your blocks up even higher using the highest height of the blocks. Or some of you I know like to fold over and bring your hands to the floor and let your head drop and release here. It all depends on how your back and your hips feel. So take your time, be really mindful, let yourself just enjoy feeling this openness in the backs of your legs and in your hips. Accept your breaths all the way in and all the way out. Feel that movement through the rib cage as you inhale and exhale. Good. One more nice full breath. And then to rise up, take your time. You can walk your feet closer together first if that's better for you before you come up, or wait till after you come up. And then move around a little bit. Walk through. Let yourself move around through your feet and your ankles if you need. And we're going to do the other side. So again, as you come towards the front of your mat and you step your left foot back, get yourself into that back foot about parallel to that back edge, and then getting your heels in a line so that when you bend that right knee, it's easy, right? You feel really balanced again. So the toes of the right foot face the front edge of your mat, and then when you bend that knee, it's right out over the center of your foot. And let's rise our arms up. Again, higher than your shoulders, right? See if you can let yourself feel the shoulders soften down. And then when you start to lower your arms and you look over the top of your right hand and you reach back through your left fingertips and forward through your right, there you are into that power and strength, really, especially if you press your feet a little away from each other. Feel your hips. One more breath. Imagine your arms are being held up from underneath instead of the tops of your shoulders. Let's put our left hand on our left hip, straighten the right leg out, and then bring that right hand down for a triangle. So again, you can put it up on your or above your knee. You can lower down towards the seat of the chair if that feels okay. But your legs are straight, thighs are lifting up, and if you want to add your left arm up, you can, straight up from your shoulder. But you don't need to. If your shoulder bothers you, keep your hand on your hip. Feel your thighs lifting upward again like we did, remember, in pyramid. So triangle pose. Feeling those 3 points, the top shoulder or hand and the bottom, the 2 feet at the bottom. One more breath. We're going to bend the right knee and come on back into Warrior Two, pressing those feet away from each other as we come, finding that core strength again. Good. We're going to bring our hands down, and we're going to turn our feet more parallel. So as you come forward again, if you need your blocks, you have your blocks there. You can have your hands down to the blocks and go ahead and again bend one knee at a time if that helps you adjust. Just be mindful of finding an easy way for you to do that, right? And then come on back to center and let's walk our hands over to the right. You may just want to use your blocks and walk a little bit to the right or go closer towards your foot. Once you get there, bring your right hand up to your right hip. And if you want to, you can even roll your shoulder up a little bit. Put your hand down flat on your sacrum there. And then we'll come on back down with that hand. We're going to walk back through center and we're going to go to the left. So again, you can be on the blocks, you can be on the floor, you can go all the way to your foot, or you can stay in front of the foot. Left hand to the left hip. And again, this is totally optional. You don't have to roll the shoulder up into that little twist unless it feels good. Good. Good, and then we'll bring our hand on back down. We're going to come back into center. And now adjust yourself. Remember, in this pose, you can have both knees bent, or you can have both legs straight, but you want to feel equal, right? So if you like to bend your knees and put your elbows above your knees, that's a good way to really keep your back lengthened. Also using the blocks underneath your forearms, letting yourself do that. Or if you like to go ahead and hang your head, let yourself release your hands more towards between your feet, you can. Some of you might even want to hold your ankles. You know, if that feels good, you can do that. But just let yourself accept those breaths and follow your awareness. Let your awareness stay with your breath, following it all the way in and out. Like you have nothing else on your mind except watching your breath. Right side of your mat a bit. That's a half moon, right? If any of you want to lift your right hand up to your hip, man, that's a lot of work, but you can play that way. If opening the hip does not feel good to you, don't do it. Keep the toes face down, right? So take your time. You can stay in your half moon, one more breath if possible. And then we'll bring down our hand and foot at the same time. Bend both your knees for a second. Let yourself release. And then we're just going to go to the other side. So the left leg comes up when toes are facing down and your hips are kind of level there like that. That's a warrior three. Now if you turn your toes away from the floor and shift more weight to your right hand, you can still keep your left hand down. Maybe be on your fingertips or something that gets you a little more out of the hand. Or you can bring your hand up to your hip if you want to, right? So one more breath there. And then let yourself release. Bring the foot on down. Bend your knees a little bit. And now keep your hands here if you can. Now some of you will be able to cross your right ankle above your left knee in a figure four and bend your left knee to release your hip. Some of you will need to just cross your ankle. So if you can just cross in front of your ankle and bend the left knee a little bit, that'll release the hip. If you bring it above your knee and bend the left knee, that's even more of a release. Right, so try flexing through that right foot to let yourself be engaged. Good, and then come on up to uncross and switch legs. So just kind of, again, you kind of experiment. If you need to just let yourself cross a little bit there at your ankle, if you can go above the knee, or maybe even, you know, kind of in between, whatever works. Flex through that foot that's up. Let yourself find that release in your outer left hip. Good. One more breath. And then we're going to uncross our legs. We're going to get our feet under us, bend our knees, rise on up to standing, and inhale our arms all the way out and up. And as we exhale and our hands come down, imagine really that your head can float up towards the ceiling. It is really almost like your head becomes weightless. So after all we've done, you usually do feel a little lightheaded, but not in a way, you know, that's a bad way. Not like a vertigo, dizzy way. It's just that lightness in your head where you don't feel like, you know, you're compressing your vertebrae anymore. You can find that sense of space in your spine. And then let your arms unfold on down beside you and shake out a little bit, walk around a little bit. We're going to stay on our mats and go down onto our bellies on the floor. So you might need to kind of move your chair off to the side or get it out of your way. And come on down and let it be a brief little respite here of making a little pillow with your hands, and rest your forehead on your hands. And bend your knees and do your own little foot dance back there, whatever feels good. You know, circle around if you want with your feet. You can kind of bend and straighten legs at a time if you feel good to do that, or the windshield wiper blades where you let your lower legs move from side to side a little bit. Good. And then come on back with the longer legs here now. Let's come on up into Sphinx Pose, letting our elbows come pretty close to under your shoulders with your palms facing down. Now, if this doesn't work for you, come lower down and slide your elbows down more towards your waist so that you're not up so high. In other words, if you feel any kind of discomfort when you're up with the elbows under your shoulders, just go lower. And then just let your gaze be really comfortable. So try not to do this and lift your chin way up like that. But let yourself, again, it's that feeling of your head being a part of your spine. So if you like, just kind of continue this curve up through the spine, your head just becomes part of it. And one more breath here, and really feel how it opens your belly. Such a simple pose. It's a really good back bend. One more breath. Good, and then bring your hands together, clasp them, send your pinky finger out. So push into the outer edges of your hands, bend your knees, and lift your hips up. And now just pull yourself towards the front of the mat with as much strength as you can. It's like you're pulling yourself onto that flesh above your knees. You're not on your kneecaps. You're above your kneecaps, and you can really feel your belly and your low back and your hips working. Now, if you like doing full forearm planks, feel free to do that. Put your feet down, lift your knees up, and let yourself come into the full forearm plank, which also is a deep core pose, right? So either one, whichever one works for you. See if you can stay one more breath, feeling that strength there in the core of the body. And then we're going to come on down. And now, let yourself stretch your right arm out to the side like you're just reaching straight out from your shoulder. And bring your left hand in by your chest, like you're going to do a push-up. All right? And be really mindful with this, especially if you have shoulder things. Okay? Don't do it if it doesn't feel good. But if you can push into your left hand and roll a little bit on to your right side, you're going to get a big, huge opening across the right side of your chest. So don't do it if it hurts. You know, if it even hurts to bring your arm out like that, don't do it. Stay one more breath if you can. And then come back onto your belly. Bring your right hand in like you're doing the push-up. Stretch your left arm out. And then see if you can just press into that right hand. And you don't have to go far, right? You can roll more onto the side if you want, or you can go less. But keep your head on the floor so you're not holding your head up and tensing your neck. We'll try to let your head release down. Good. One more breath. And then roll back to your belly again. We're going to bring our arms down alongside us. Now, your hands are on the floor, but they're just out from your mat. And you're going to let your palms face down. And then from here, come up to the tips of your fingers and thumbs, right? And then see if you can just let your head come up a little bit. So your nose is off the floor, right? Not really high. And then see if you can float your legs up too. And here you are in a locust pose. It is a back bend. You're really using your body to lift yourself up here. If you want to float your hands up too, you can, reaching the fingertips and your toes back towards the foot of your mat back there. One more breath. And then come on down. Turn your left cheek towards the floor And let your palms face up towards the ceiling, which is going to let your shoulders melt down towards the ground. Now, sometimes this isn't comfortable in your neck. So if you feel like you have to kind of adjust the angle that you're at there, you can. Or you can think about getting your ear more down to the floor. Sometimes that helps. But try to relax here for a couple of breaths. Really feel the breath expanding your low back. So really feeling that low back expand when you breathe in. Good, and now we're going to come up and turn our head the other way. So, you know, one of these might have been your best side. So if one of them is like really uncomfortable and the other one is just fine, that's really common. So try to adjust to where you're able to relax and breathe. Good, one more breath here. Good. And now bring yourself back to center, hands by your chest, and see if you can press up into like a half push-up. And then shift your hips back a little bit and bring your knees a little more underneath you, like you're going to do cat-cow, okay? And then from here, start to come forward a little bit with your hips. Now you may decide, well, I can do that if I put my knees back further. You can come forward and come towards a cobra pose a little bit. You don't have to go all the way, right? You may decide, okay, well, I'll put my weight on my hands a little bit. Maybe I'll let my chest come through and my elbows come in towards my ribs. Maybe I won't, right? Shoulders away from your ears. And then we're going to come on back and come towards pose of a child. So some of us need to stay up with our hips in pose of a child and be kind of like on our forearms. Some of us feel just fine to bend the knees deeper and let our hips come down towards our heels. So you have to come into a child's pose that feels releasing for you. Not where you feel like you're putting too much pressure in your knees. And sometimes it's even more like the tops of your feet that give you trouble, right? So just be mindful. Let yourself find a release for your own hips and your low back. Accept those easy breaths. Good. So one more breath here. And then to come up to sitting, let your hands help you. You can come on up and around. We're going to bring our legs on around in front of us. So just let yourself, if you need to sit up on a blanket or even higher on 2 blankets or 3 blankets, do. Let your legs just stretch out there in front of you and bring your hands just a little bit behind you so your chest can come a little bit forward, not way back, right? Just so a little bit of support is there. You can draw your chest forward. And then see if you can feel like your spine is supporting you and bring your hands to where the palms face down and the fingertips face forward. Staff pose. It's like you're in the shape of a capital letter L. Think of your knees and your toes facing up towards the ceiling and feel your heels just drawing down towards the ground, drawing back towards you a little bit so your legs are engaged. Nice. And let's bring our right arm all the way out and up. Put your left hand fingertips on the floor and just come into a little bit of a side stretch there. Let it feel good. Now really still feel that right sitting bone drawing down towards the ground. And then we'll rise back up. We're going to lower that arm down and bring the left arm up. And again, as you come over into the side, feel the sitting bone drawing down that left sitting bone. Good. And then we're going to come on back up. And we're going to lower our arms on down. And from here, we're going to bring you want to come off a block if you're on one. We're going to come into a little boat pose. So bring your feet onto the floor here. Hold behind your thighs. And you can let your feet be really close or you can let them be a little apart. But think of leaning back a little bit with a long back. So not tucking like this, right? Big difference between the chest coming through and forward and letting yourself do that with your tailbone curling forward. So this is hard right here. You can just stay right here and hold on to your legs and Just stay for a few breaths there. Feel your belly and your back. If you want, you can walk your feet back and lift your lower legs up in the air and flex your feet. Only do that if that feels okay. So if you do that and you're like, oh my gosh, that hurts my back, don't do it, right? Put your feet back down. Let yourself try staying in your boat there. Now, if any of you want to let go of your legs, you can. Yeah, and if you're like, yeah, there's no way I'm doing that, don't do it. Yeah, and I mean, you can think about letting your legs come long too. So I mean, sometimes letting your legs come long is fun because it gives you a stretch in the back of the legs. Now, it's hard to let go, right? Sometimes holding on to the legs like that feels good though if they're longer. If you want to let go, you can let go. Boat pose. One more breath. And then we're going to come on down, let the soles of the feet come together into Baddha Konasana and your knees open. Now you may want your feet farther out so that you have like this kind of big diamond shape there. Or you might feel really good to bring your feet in closer to you. It's what feels like a relief to your hips. And then sometimes coming forward makes it even a better relief, and sometimes it's not so good. So you can, if you want, if your feet are out or in, you can think about coming forward from your low back being long, right? Again, you don't want to tuck your tailbone up under you and round into your back. That's kind of defeating the purpose. So take your time. You can stay up tall and just sit right there and let yourself imagine your knees reaching away from the midline. So you feel this sense of letting go in your hips. You're trying to, instead of like tensing up and trying to make yourself stay there, instead you're just feeling this huge release as the knees reach away from the midline and you lengthen up through the spine. Good. One more breath. And then we're going to release and come on back with our legs forward before we come down onto our backs on the floor. So have blocks handy in case you want a block or two for your bridge pose. Just in case you want supported bridge, bring yourself on down and let your knees come on into your chest. Release the knees a little side to side, or circle if that feels even better. You can let your knees circle. And these circles can be really fun. Either direct, you can keep them close together and circle them one way and the other. Or the other way you can circle your knees is to let them separate and circle in opposite directions, which is really a total different feeling, but it feels really good sometimes. So, and you can always change the direction of those circles. So again, it's kind of finding what your low back and your hips feel good to do. Good. And now, let's keep our right knee into our chest and extend your left leg up in the air like you're putting a footprint on the ceiling, right? Now, think about starting to lower your left leg down. And as you do, you're going to feel this change in your low back, in the curves of your spine. Let it happen, right? Keep your belly engaged a little bit, but go ahead and feel how the low back starts to come off the floor into that curve in your lumbar spine. Once the leg comes down all the way to the floor, keep it there. Flex through both your feet and press that right leg gently into your hands a little bit. Good. And then from here, we're going to bring our left knee in and we're going to extend the right leg up, again, like you're putting a footprint on a ceiling. So now your foot is up towards the ceiling. And then as you start to lower that leg down, again, very slowly, because you're going to feel this spot where, oh, I've got to really use my belly, but you're not trying to keep your low back pressed into the floor. You're just using your belly and letting that natural curve come back into your spine. And once you get the leg down to the floor, again, press your leg gently into your hands. I mean, that is your core strength right there. That low back right there that just came into that little bit of curve, and your belly, your hips, that's your core. So from here, let's bring our feet onto the floor and bend your knees. Let yourself bring your arms alongside you. Let your feet be a little wider than you have in your mountain pose, but they're still parallel. Your toes are still facing the foot of your mat. And let's bend our elbows to 90 degrees. Let your palms face each other, all right? Like a robot. Press into the backs of your arms, and your chest is going to lift up. So is like most of your back going to come off the floor. Roll your shoulders under more if you can. And then maybe lifting your hips up for bridge pose feels easier. As you lift up, if you come up and you don't feel so good about where your feet are, then go back down and adjust how far your feet are from your bottom before you lift up. If you can come up and find a place where you're like, okay, well, this is pretty good. See if you can lift your heels up, which brings your hips up a little higher, but also really you can feel your quads more. So play with that, and if you're like, no, I don't want to play with that, I want to come into a supported bridge pose, go right ahead and do that. If you feel like you feel better to be relaxed onto a block for your bridge pose, then you can put the block right underneath your low back and stay on it. And absolutely totally relax onto the block. You can also use the block to play with lifting up and down, right? So you want to be, if you're using the block, you want to have it right underneath that flat sacrum, right at the base of your spine, right? So that when you lift up, if you lift up, you can still just come back down and rest on the block if you want. And you can go higher on blocks too. You can use 2 blocks if you want. You can get up really high in a supported bridge if it feels releasing for you. Or you can come up and down in bridge pose without using a block at all. You know that. So take your time. I mean, you know, you can come down anytime. You do not have to wait for me to say it's, you know, time to come down from the bridge. If you feel bridge pose in your back, come down and let yourself release, bring the knees in towards the chest, however you want. It's really bridge pose, you'll feel more in your thighs than anything. But you always, when you come down, you always want to let your back release by either bringing knees in or maybe a happy baby pose, sending your feet up in the air and coming into happy baby, or maybe you feel like you want to come into what we were doing sitting, the Baddha Konasana, with the soles of your feet together. Or there could be any number of things right here you want to do. Me, I like my knees to go side to side and do easy little twists out of bridge pose. Or there might be some other kind of twist that sounds good to you on your back there. You know, like the one where you bring one knee in towards your chest and then bring it across the midline. You know, maybe that sounds like a better idea to you. So take your time. We're getting ready for the best part of class. Shavasana is the final relaxation pose, which, you know, it translates to being horse pose, which, so traditionally, you lie on your back with your legs out, just kind of with your feet towards the corners of your mat. And your arms would be down alongside you, maybe with palms facing up, but out a little bit away from you too. And if you're not comfortable like that, don't be surprised, because it can sometimes not be a very comfortable way to lie down. So I've got all this stuff. I've got bolsters put under your knees that helps change the angle of your pelvis so that if your low back is talking to you, raise your hand up and let me know so that I can bring you a bolster to put underneath your knees. And sometimes it takes a second. You're there and you're like, well, I feel fine. And then in another few seconds, you're like, I don't really feel so fine. So let me know. I've got plenty of bolsters. I've got blankets if you need a blanket for under your head. If you need to kind of wiggle your way into Shavasana, do. And then it's like the only thing you want to do is let yourself be with your breath. Just that same sense of just your mind being with the flow of your breath, the wave of your breath coming in and going out. And of course, our minds often don't want to stay there. So when you find yourself off into thinking, just come back. Just softly bring yourself back again to watching your breath, just like you would if you were watching the waves of the ocean. You're standing at the beach watching in and out. And your mind and your body will respond to the breath becoming quieter. And as you just let yourself have these few minutes to give your body time to benefit, just allow yourself to completely and fully relax.